Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Peter Susskind, and the first thing I want to do is to welcome you, of course, to the San Francisco Opera and this absolutely magnificent theater. We're very privileged in our relatively small city to have such a fantastic opera company. A few years ago, I gave a lecture, I think it was right here, on La Bohème, and I started like this. I thought to myself, what can I say about the opera most performed in North America? Well, actually nothing, because it's Madame Butterfly. So now I can say something. And I hope that these remarks might help you a little bit with the performance you're about to hear. To be fair, if you are a statistics freak, those lists come out every year and they change. But Madame Butterfly, Tosca, and La Bohème are always up there in the top 4 or 5 operas worldwide, the most performed. Why so popular? And why do people come back time and time again to hear these works, just as they return to watch, say, plays of Shakespeare? That reference is absolutely on purpose. Puccini is without any doubt a man of the theatre and of the stage. One of the characteristics that makes these operas so watchable and so moving every time is his impeccable sense of timing. No scene is ever too long, no aria is ever too long, and all the action seems to come at precisely the right time. I know we have all had moments, even dare I say it, with my own personal operatic hero, who is Wagner, where we think, okay, I get it. Now let's get on with the story, shall we? This aria is going on, it's a bit too long, and that explanation really isn't necessary for the 5th time. We already know that darn ring is going to cause trouble. Never with Puccini. There really isn't a single superfluous note, and no scene goes on a minute too long. With Puccini, we're in the world of what's called, or what we call, verismo, which means true to life, realism, maybe. Actually, the very best translation is the $10 word, verisimilitude. That's what it is. And when we think of classical operas with mythical gods standing and declaiming like this, right up to my beloved Wagner, again with swan princes and dwarf gold miners and so on, Puccini's characters are much more realistic. I'm sure we all know someone who is young and naive and has been taken advantage of. That's what you're going to see this afternoon. Puccini's people are real people whom we know, and they behave as real people do. And above all, there's another thing about Puccini. He knows that you're sitting in a warm concert hall or a warm theater, and it's dark, and after about 40 minutes or 45 minutes, you are thinking to yourself, whether you consciously or not, maybe quite nice to go and get a cup of coffee or a drink or use the restroom. Well, Puccini obliges, because no act ever goes on that long. In fact, there are several Wagner acts which are longer than complete Puccini operas. But while these characters are recognizable, this is theater. And action has to grip us more powerfully than the more domestic reality of sitting at home and loading the dishwasher or whatever. So the stories, while very human, are, especially in these early operas, mostly tragedies, and they're full of high drama. Well, let us hope that you don't have too much high drama at home, because you're going to get enough of it here on the stage. We all know tragedy, and indeed the causes are usually romantic misunderstandings, villains, like, for instance, the magnificent Scarpia in Tosca, one of the best villains of them all, or death caused by disease or accident, whatever. So although the story of Butterfly is more exaggerated in a way than real life, or the real lives most of us experience, the themes are instantly recognizable. So I think it's about time to look at the actual action in a bit more detail. Let me warn you, in case you haven't ever seen it before, you're going to need a large virtual box of Kleenex. Well, even that may be distracting to your neighbors, but this really is the tearjerker of all tearjerker operas. A US naval officer called Pinkerton is renting a house on the hill in Nagasaki, Japan. Also another little ironic touch, isn't it? All of us remember that Nagasaki was number 2 after Hiroshima in the Allies' attack on Japan. The house is for his soon-to-be wife, Butterfly, and the realtor, another character we all know, is called Goro, and he is that rather slippery operator with a finger in lots of different things, anything really which will bring him a yen or two. It turns out that he's also the marriage broker, and we're going to hear a lot more about that. He arranged her marriage, and her Japanese name, by the way, is Chocho-san, and she is a 15-year-old Japanese girl whom he is marrying. I read several synopses in preparation for this, and they all said, I thought rather strangely, that he is marrying her for convenience. Well, we're going to see a little bit about that. What it really means is that he intends to leave her once he finds, and this is the actual words from the libretto, a real American wife. This is made easier as Japanese divorce laws in 1900 or so were rather lax. In fact, he has struck a bargain with the rather slimy Goro that the marriage is to last 999 years, but can be annulled with a month's notice. In fact, it's the same deal that he struck on the house. Needless to say, Butterfly knows nothing of all of this, and she's excited to marry an American, and so she has secretly converted to Christianity. The wedding is about to take place in the house. Sharpless, who is the honest and shrewd American consul, congratulates Pinkerton, but he suspects what is going on and warns Pinkerton that Butterfly is serious, and she really loves him. Pinkerton just shrugs him off. But this is an opportunity for Pinkerton, unlikable though he is, to have at least one great aria. Here it is. The words are, everywhere in the world, the roving Yankee takes his pleasure and his profit, indifferent to all risks. He drops anchor at random. And in case you have forgotten what nationality he is, you may recognize this first little quotation. Example 1, please. Okay, thank you very much. Next, we meet Butterfly herself. This is her first entrance as she walks up to her new marital home. She is saying she's the happiest girl in Japan, but listen to some of this very uneasy harmony here. We are being given a foretaste of the instability and the disharmony which is to follow. Example 2, please. Okay, thank you very much. So you can hear, can't you? Especially in the first few phrases, the harmony is very, very unclear, all sort of diminished and augmented chords if you're a music major, and not very harmonious. Okay, after the wedding ceremony, her uncle, who is called a bonze, which means a Buddhist monk, who has pointedly not been invited to the wedding, he shows up, curses her, and orders all the guests to leave, which they do, renouncing her. So poor girl, she's left completely on her own. All family and friends all have disowned her. Undaunted, after they leave, Pinkerton and Butterfly sing a love duet and prepare to spend their first night together. There are many operas where the first act concludes with a wonderful love duet. Othello, for instance, would be a great example. This one is one of the most beautiful. It has passion, terrible pathos, because of course we know what's going to happen. Butterfly starts, just love me a little, and only let me please you. But later, when Pinkerton replies, you can hear the rising tension and passion. He says, give me your hands, I'll cover them with kisses. Okay, example number 3, please. When a little further on in this wonderful, wonderful duet, Pinkerton beckons her into the bedroom with the words, Vieni, Vieni, the heat is really being turned up. It's a very, very passionate and wonderful, wonderful duet. And of course, it ends the first act, so then you can mop your brow and get yourself ready for the next 2 acts. 3 years later, of course, he's gone. We knew he was going to. He had left shortly after the wedding, and her maid Suzuki, we'll come to her in a little while, tries to convince her that he is not coming back, but she won't listen. And that's where you have the very, very famous aria, which you all know, Un bel dì, one fine day, where she gazes out and says, he's coming back. One fine day, he's going to come back. Goro, the rather unappetizing marriage broker, keeps trying to get her remarried. As with that lax Japanese law, it's not a problem. And he brings along this rich prince called Yamidoro, who, and of course, Goro says, well, he's got money, he's got servants, he's got a great palace, why on earth? She says, no, I'm taken, I'm pledged to one person. She is an honest and honorable and loyal little wife. At the same time as this is going on, and this is one of the wonderful things that opera can do, Sharpless, the consul, is trying to read Butterfly a letter which has come from Pinkerton. He gets so far, he absolutely cannot finish it. The letter actually is saying that he's coming back, but he certainly can't get to the the crux of the problem, which we're going to get to in just a moment. He tactfully, because he's a very good man, Sharpless, asks what she would do if Pinkerton were not to return. She then reveals, take a deep breath here, she has given birth to Pinkerton's son after he had left, and asked Sharpless to tell him. Time for more of those virtual Kleenex. From the Hill House, Butterfly sees the ship, Pinkerton's ship, which is called the Abraham Lincoln, of course, arriving in the harbor. And this is another heartbreaking scene, which actually basically is heartbreak from beginning to end. You'll hear another little snippet of the Star-Spangled Banner, all the more poignant with the scene which is to follow, when you remember the immortal words which you all know so well, by the dawn's early light, since she will await his arrival all night in a vigil. But before that, she and her faithful maid Suzuki prepare the little house with flowers strewn all over, and that gives us an opportunity for me to introduce Suzuki. There's a very, very beautiful little duet as they spray the house with blossoms. Example 4, please. Okay, thank you. You can hear the joy and the happiness there, completely misplaced as it happens, but there we are. There's a famous moment here. They prepare for the arrival, and then Suzuki and the child fall asleep. But as I mentioned, Butterfly stays up all night waiting for him to arrive in the dawn's early light, if you like. Suzuki wakes up in the morning, and Butterfly, at that point, finally falls asleep. Sharpless and Pinkerton arrive at the house with Pinkerton's new American wife, Kate. They have come because Kate has actually agreed to raise the child. Kate has very little to sing, and yet we get a feeling that she's a very nice and a very good woman. Butterfly has not been consulted, by the way, on all of this. When Pinkerton sees the house and sees how Butterfly has so lovingly decorated it, he realizes what a brute he has been and how he's never thought it through. As well he should be, he is deeply mortified and embarrassed. And like so many men in this sort of difficult situation, he avoids it, leaving Suzuki, Sharpless, and Kate to break the news to Butterfly. Nevertheless, in this final aria, "Farewell, my beloved, my guilty heart," we do see at least that he is a bit sorry. Example 5. Butterfly wakes up and she realizes what has happened and what is going on. And in a truly Japanese and noble moment, declaims, "He dies with honor who cannot live with honor." She agrees to give up her child only if Pinkerton will come and see her. Not because she wants to see him, but anyway, you'll see. She's about to kill herself, and Suzuki, in a last desperate attempt to stop her mistress from dying, sends in the little boy, the little American son that she has. She stops and hugs him passionately before saying goodbye, hoping that he will remember her face. Butterfly then, this is, by the way, you will have got through your whole box of tissues by now. Butterfly, this will do it, though. If you have one left which you need it, this is where you'll need it. She places Pinkerton's cap on her son's head and says, "Go off and play." She then kills herself with her father's, actually, harakiri knife. And Pinkerton is rushing up. This is the opera ends. The very last thing you hear is Pinkerton rushing up to the house, but of course he's too late. Butterfly has died. The last words we hear, Pinkerton crying, are, "Butterfly, butterfly." And that's it. That's when you're going to have actually dissolved into a little puddle on the seat down there, and you have to recoup, get yourself back together again and get back in the real world. But I have to tell you, it's not a happy story. It is, however, very, very moving, and it has the most wonderfully beautiful music in it. And I do hope that you enjoy every second of it this afternoon, and thank you so much for listening to me.